Thanks for joining us today on The Perfect X. I'm Sherry, and this is my co host, Ben.
Hi, everyone. This is Benjamin.
And today, our topic is expectations and your first few dates. And this is continuing kind of what we talked about last week about what people expect on first dates or what we think we should do on first dates. But before even going on to what we think the next 2 to 3, 4 dates should be with someone, I kind of wanted to go into with you, Ben, like expectations, like what has changed, like when you're even picking someone you want to date compared to when you were younger. So today, and you're almost 40, right? You are 40.
I'm 40. Yeah, I just turned
Yeah,
40 in April.
yeah. I forgot, late April, Taurus boy. um yeah, so I kind of want to know, like, before we get into like our second, third, fourth date, kind of what you kind of hope for, how that goes. What is it that has changed for you, like when you were younger till now when you were dating?
Yeah, so I guess when you were younger, or when I was younger, you would always have like that idea of, oh, you meet someone, you you start dating, you move in together, you get married, you have kids. But now that I'm 40, and maybe this has been since I was like maybe 35, I really don't care too much about marriage anymore. I don't want to have kids. So, yeah, things have really changed since I was younger. Like that whole idea of, oh, yeah, this is how life is, like you're born, you meet someone, you get married, and then you die. But now I don't have that idea anymore. Like now, more is of just being happy with myself. And if there's someone there with me, that's amazing. I'm, I'm like, I don't like to cheat. I've cheated before. But I
Ooh, how
have been
old?
cheated. How old?
Yeah, how old were you when you cheated?
Oh, probably no, I was younger. Like on in my last three relationship, I have not cheated, but I've been cheated on. And so I don't know, I'm and I feel like people that are going through that are just like they're not really sure that they want to be with that person. I think that's why we cheat. But then going through all that marriage process is just so much complicated if you don't want to be with someone. And instead of you're just living your life, you're happy with someone, you start living with someone, and things just don't work out. It's easier to break up with someone than to get divorced. So,
Not in California. I think if you live with someone after like 6 months or something in California, you can still sue them for like half their assets. So
well,
they consider it common law marriage, but I know what you're saying. I'm just kidding with you. I know what you're saying. But I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Like for me, I even as a kid, and I want to actually, I will go back to this. I want to know when you decided you didn't want kids anymore, because I notice a lot more our generations are like that. I always said I didn't want kids. I've said it since I was younger. I just knew I never wanted to be pregnant. So I didn't know as much. Like I was kind of open to adoption and like that kind of stuff. I just knew like pregnancy was not something I ever did not look at like appealing to me whatsoever. So I always knew I didn't want kids. And because of that, when I was younger, I never wanted to get married until I was like 35-ish. Like that was always I was never like in my 20s, like, oh, I really want to get married. I want to have kids, like blah 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 by 25. I want to be a young mom. Like none of that ever crossed my mind. And because of that, I was so easy to date. I mean, I wasn't a great girlfriend in my late 20s, but I was much easier to find dates or be people I was willing to go out on dates with, because my expectations were so low, because I didn't see it as marriage. I didn't take it as someone I'd meet him like at 20 and get married at 25. I just was like, oh, I want to have fun. I want to party. I want to get to know like all the kinds of people out there. So I would just go out with everybody. Like I was always down to go on a date and see what was available. And that definitely shifted after 35 when I decided I wanted something serious. So I'm kind of curious, like what changed for you? Like what point did you decide I don't want kids anymore, and marriage changed for you? And when that happened, what was your criteria dating that changed? Like were you willing to date more easier than you were in your early 20s when you wanted marriage? Because it sounds like for you it was role reversal. Like I was much easier picking who I went out with at 22 than I was at 36, you know? Like at 36, I was like, nope, he doesn't have these foundations or these certain things. There's no point on even going on a date. But at 22, I was like, hell yeah, he's got a fun car and he knows the best club to go out with. I'm definitely going out, you know? And then when I moved to LA, I was like, anybody who asked me out, I said yes, because I got to explore the entire city and meet all these different people just by saying yes all the time. And that's all I cared about. I just wanted to see what was out in LA, what there was to do, where were the good places to go. I didn't know a single soul when I moved out here, not anybody. So I was so much easier versus if certain guys like that asked me out today, there was no way I would go out with them. So for you, what was changed, like criteria wise, and when
I
too?
I think I think what happened is since I was like younger, I just had really long-term relationships. And
Mm.
so I was never going out like with a lot of different girls on different dates. So I think that was just it, that I was just like, I've been with this person for 5, 6 years. I lived with my ex-girlfriend, and it was just like long-term relationships, and I never had that moment of, oh, let me start. I want to go out with this girl, and then maybe with this girl. Like that's I
So
feel what happened. So
marriage was always part of it, you're saying, sort of.
yeah,
Like the
like I
next step.
always, yeah, like there was only one relationship where I was like, oh, I thought of proposing. Never happened. We ended up breaking up, but we were together for maybe 5 years. We lived together. We moved from Cancun to Veracruz, and she was gonna move here to Austin, and she ended up not coming here. And yeah, and so from there on, this is 9 years ago, I was just like, I don't know, I just don't feel that marriage thing in me anymore. Like, why do we have to follow those like rules that society gives you, you know?
Did you feel
So
like you had to before though? You felt like that's just what the steps of life are?
yes, yes. And I mean, my parents have been there this year, they turned 50 years together. So
Oh,
I feel like
shoot.
I had that, yeah. So I feel like I had that foundation of like, I mean, my parents have been married for so long, like that's just what you have to follow.
But you
And
know, it's
and
kind of funny you say that though, like that parents thing. Like I have parents who are happily married. Like they love each other. Like they're really best friends with each other. They're still so lovey-dovey and touchy and all that kind of stuff. They've been together for like 40 plus years too. But I
mhm.
wasn't that touchy lovey-dovey. I even though I've been loved on so heavily by, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, like it doesn't always matter. Like it takes a lot for me to be affectionate. Like even though my family was so affectionate, I have a dad who told me he loved me every day, like at every aspect, no matter what it was. My mom, like, you know, like she always loved everything about me. Like they never did anything but dote on us. But I also didn't feel so inclined for marriage, even though I had the best marriage in front of me.
Yeah.
So isn't that funny? Like you usually people say like, "Oh, my family wasn't very like lovey or like my parents weren't happily married, so I don't believe in marriage." I believe in marriage though. I definitely want to get married, but I didn't care for it at all for the
Yeah.
longest time.
So I mean, I would totally get married if the person that I'm with wants to do it. I don't want to do like a huge wedding. I feel it's something like more intimate.
Mhm.
I'll just have like close friends and family members, but that's about it. I mean, other than that, I don't know. Like I just don't feel it's necessary. Like just sign a paper. And also, I know a lot of people who have dated for so many years, they get married, and then after a year or two, they get divorced. And
I've seen people like that too. Isn't that crazy?
I feel it's like a pressure that now it's a contract. So now it's, I mean, I really don't know what happens that it just changes. Why were you dating? Like I have a cousin, she dated for 13 years and then she got married. And after like a year and a half, they got divorced. And I still see the guy sometimes when I go to Mexico. And for me, he's still like my cousin. I mean, I still call
But have
him.
you ever asked her what changed? Because I only knew two people, but they were like through work. I couldn't really ask them. And if anyone's listening and you have this story, I'm dying to know what shifted because I also knew this from work person. They were together for 9 years and they were like one of the cutest couples I've ever seen. And then 7 months into getting married, or like less than a year, they got divorced. So I was like, what changed? Like, what could possibly change with that piece of paper? So if you can ask your cousin, or if you're a listener and you have a story like that, I'm curious. Like, I'm actually curious what changes.
Yeah, I never asked her. But yeah, I mean, if I ever talk to her, we're not like extremely close, but I mean, whenever if I ever talk to her, I would totally ask her because yeah, it was just weird. And again, I see this guy and his name's Fernando,
Family.
and we still like, hey, how are you? You know, for me, he's still my cousin because he was in our life so many years. So
Yeah,
whenever
yeah,
there was
makes
like
sense.
family reunion, he was always there. So, but yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, if I'm gonna be with someone, I'm gonna be loyal. I want to be with that person, and I'm not gonna be playing around. So that for me, that's why marriage is not like the most important thing. Like if I'm already saying that I want to be with you, if I want to be um like a thing, I'm gonna be that thing. I'm gonna be there for you, and I'm not gonna
You
be.
don't you don't need the paper, what you're saying.
Yeah,
So what's really funny is you said you want a small wedding, which I think most people are getting more into as we get older too. Like those people who are more comfortable. I also would love a small wedding. I've always said I wanted to get married on a farm, and I love to mess with my dad because he's like a big meat eater and I'm a vegetarian. So I'm always like, my wedding will be vegan, even though even though I'm not vegan. And he's always like, well, thankfully you're getting married on a farm because I'll just go out there and go take a lamb myself and roast it right there. So it's always been a joke. But I like the small wedding thing too. I think those big, and I'm Persian. Like like my brother and my sister both had like 200 plus people at their weddings, and I always tell my mom like, you're not inviting your friends like that I don't know. If I don't know them, like it's not this big. It's not a celebration for randoms. Again,
yeah.
she says if invite my friends, they won't come because it's on a farm anyways. So it works out. It works out.
But
But
also,
I
I
like
rather I
weddings.
rather spend that money on a really nice, I don't know, like put it down for a house or go on your honeymoon or like
Something
things.
personal, because
Uh,
how could a
yeah,
wedding with 400 people be personal, or 200 people? It just seems like such a private moment that you share with, it should be shared with people that know you as a couple and know you as an individual versus just someone going for like a dinner out.
yeah. Also,
Which
I'm not religious, so that like I would just do it like the court, and that's about it. And but I'm not a religious person, so yeah,
I mean, it should be wherever you want to do it. So no
yeah, yeah,
farm for
yeah.
you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it on a farm, and I don't care if like my best friend marries me or my brother, like I don't care about that. But
So wait, so I gotta ask, but okay, so no, like you don't care, like the courthouse or whatever, tacos probably after with some beer.
of course, I'll
um,
do it at a brewery.
but if she wanted a big wedding, would you be okay with it?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like this is a conversation that has to start up once you start dating. Like in my profile, like it says I don't want kids. So I feel like if somebody wants to have kids, that's one thing that they would not like me in the profile. And I do come up with this conversation once I'm dating someone. I'm like, I don't want to get married, just want to leave it clear because I mean I know some girls like that's their dream. They want to get married, and I'm just like, that's not my dream. So I mean, I think that has to start from the get-go.
And you don't think it would change if, like, let's say, like the kids thing, which actually, I mean, going back, I'm curious, like, at what point did you decide you don't want kids anymore?
Um, well, this was maybe around like 10 years ago, maybe. Yeah. I was just like, I don't know. I just feel we're so many people in this world.
Yeah,
And
more overpopulated for sure.
yeah, and I mean, I'm fine with not having kids. I see so many people that just don't have kids and they enjoy their life, And I love kids. Like, don't get me wrong.
No, it has
Yeah,
nothing to do with not like I always say this is not,
yeah,
I it's not like I don't I love my niece and nephews. It's not
yeah,
about not like it's that not wanting the lifestyle that comes with having kids. That's what it is.
yeah,
But I mean, that changes how you date. So when you were like, also when I was younger, I knew I didn't want kids, but I was more open if, I mean, as long as I got a surrogate or whatever, uh, to having them if my partner really wanted it. After COVID, I was 100% positive there was no way I ever wanted to be trapped within my home 24/7 with a child. So I knew 100% it was never going to happen for me. And it was like a definite no. And that also altered my dating. So like you said, like it's a deal breaker, you know? So
yeah. So you don't want kids either.
I don't, but I'm not as opposed to adopting or if they have kids, I prefer them not to have kids because again, I don't want the lifestyle and but I feel like I wouldn't mind adopting later on in life when I was like 50, a child that's like already 5, 6, 7 years old. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff I'm open to, but I definitely don't want, but it really changes the way you date because maybe like 7 years ago, I didn't want it, but maybe I could have been coerced into it
Yeah,
and been okay with it, you know? But I know that now it is a big, like you said, it's a big topic. Like you have it on your profile. I don't have it on my profile just because it's like a longer conversation for me. Like maybe they're willing to adopt later if they want kids that bad and they don't care. So maybe that's where we have a conversation and it could be something that we agree on. But
yeah,
it does change the dating aspect because exactly like if you meet someone who really wants kids, like I never swipe right on people if I notice this at least because sometimes I don't even read all the profile, but um I don't swipe right if someone says I'm in the next phase of my life, I want marriage and kids. And I'm like, okay, this person's definitely wanting kids. It's not even a thought to
yeah.
them. Then no, that's not going to work. And it makes the dating pool different. It definitely makes who you're willing to go out with different because maybe all those aspects of that person you were interested in, and then that one aspect, which is a big aspect,
It's a big
changes it.
aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you find it's harder to date now as you get older and you have different expectations, and the pool gets smaller than when you were younger?
Oh, of course. Yes. I mean, yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, yeah. Uh, yeah. So
It's
I mean, it just narrows down to because a lot of people do want to have kids, and so that is just like no, like I don't think they jump my profile or whatever.
yeah.
And I mean,
Oh,
going out for a couple of dates and then just bringing that up, it changes their whole attitude. And I mean, and I've noticed it. I've gone on dates and it's my third, fourth date, and then hey, I don't know, that's topic comes up, and they're like, "Oh, okay, so you really don't want kids?" I'm like, "Nope."
you know what's
And
funny? I'm kind of an asshole sometimes because if I really can't stand a guy on
sometimes,
a date, yeah, all the time. Extreme assholeness comes out sometimes. When I have like a guy I really can't stand,
yeah.
I will and if he mentions that he likes kids, I'll be like, "Oh, I hate kids. I don't want kids." Just to make him never want to go out with me again. So it's one of my lines, my like I hope to get them repulsed by me lines. so so but but it's not just that, like I also find like I was such an easier going date. Like I would have not expected the guy to court or do certain things as much. Like when I was dating in my early 20s and stuff, because I wasn't looking for marriage or whatever, I didn't care how the guy planned the date, what he did, what foot he put forward. I just cared about like if we're having a good time together. And then as I dated seriously, much like later in life, I found that everything they did in the beginning, I really analyzed and scrutinized because I was like, if they're like this in the beginning, what are they going to be like later? So I really put that difficultness and that pressure into the first few dates much more than I did
Yeah.
when I was younger. Like, like I even looking back, like it's not just like the kid thing. Like it's kind of funny. Like I have an ex in Vancouver, and he like I think it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago or something. We bumped into each other, and he told a friend like, "Oh, she was so uncomfortable." Like we bumped into each other in LA, going taking a flight to Vancouver. Me, him, and his wife and my dog. You know,
Oh, okay.
and he thought I was so uncomfortable, but I was actually really sick at the time, and my dog was really sick, and I was actually going home to get my parents to help take care of us. Like I had, like we were both like whatever sick, and we were on medication, and it had nothing to do with him. Just the whole flight in general. I was already not feeling very well, and he came up to us and blah 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 and like all this awkwardness, and it had nothing to do with him. And he went back and told my friend, not even his friend, but someone he knows through me, that she was so uncomfortable. She still has feelings for me, and I thought it was laughable because as I got older, and not even when I wanted something serious, you know, I would have never dated someone like him. Like he is the best relationship for me because he taught me everything I don't want in a relationship. But
Yeah, of course,
it's
yeah.
funny that like 7 years after we broke up, or I can't remember exactly, like 5, 7 years after we broke up, it he still thinks that it impacts. Like he doesn't think I've grown as a person. And when I go back, like how we started dating, like I would never start dating someone the way we started dating. Like that's a whole topic of game playing. We'll get into that one time. But
Yeah.
just in general, the things he did, I would never be okay with. Like on our first actual date, or like that's an example. Like the first time we went out for dinner, we split the bill, which I wouldn't be okay with today. I really think that that matters because it doesn't feel like a date, and how you treat someone right off the bat should be, if you're interested properly,
Yeah.
right? And he was interested, but he didn't care enough to. And then he came over to my house, and we knew each other through friends, but came over to my house and like was just kind of like acted like it was his own, like no shame in his game, and arrogant, and things that I was like as a kid, I was like, oh, whatever, I'm having a fun time, we're drinking, blah, blah, blah. And that's all that mattered. Would not fly with me at all today, nor would I even let the guy come up. Or, I mean, I knew him for years. So that was, maybe I would if I knew another guy for years. But I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been okay with so many aspects, how arrogant he was, because I don't want a long-term relationship with someone who's arrogant, or
Of
like
course, yeah,
how,
yeah.
but that didn't matter when I was at the time 24. At the time 24, I didn't even care if someone was arrogant, because if he was fun to drink with, that's what I cared about.
Yeah.
So it changes as you get older, all those things, you know. I mean, putting him into, like, I thought it was funny because I wouldn't never ever consider someone like him today, and he still thinks that I'm that person that would. If you're evolving as a human, you wouldn't date someone at 35 that you would at 20, which is why I kind of think a lot of people, it's not to say everybody, but a lot of people, if they can't grow together, they grow apart, right? So that's why a lot of people who are married in their 20s are divorced in their 30s. You're just not the same person,
Yeah,
you
of
know?
course. Yeah. I feel you're not even mature enough of what you're looking for. And I mean, times change, like talking about like what we were saying about our parents, like they got married when times were so different.
Yeah.
And now like there's a lot of pressure, a lot of things are more expensive. There's more I mean, internet has changed so much. Like you would never expect to meet so many people just by the internet, like or Facebook or whatever. And before it was like your circle and whoever you meet, and that's who you're gonna meet for the rest of your life. Like
Exactly. You invested in that person because you didn't know who, when you'd meet somebody else. So you
of course,
invested in somebody. You invested more time, more of yourself. You were willing to tolerate more because you're like, okay, I like 45% of them. I'll deal with the other, or like 50% or 60%. I'll deal with the rest, because you really didn't know if and when you'd meet someone else.
yes.
Whereas
And
today,
now
I
you
mean,
can meet everyone everywhere. Like
yeah, yeah. And you don't even invest more than half an hour or 1 hour with someone, because you're like, this isn't going anywhere on this first day. I can just get back online and swipe, like, find five
yeah.
more dates by the end of the week. You know,
So
there's a saying.
yeah, so you mentioned COVID, and I also wanted to talk about that. Like, how was it? Were you single when COVID started
Oh
first?
yeah, so single. I was actually probably at like the most awkward stage for myself, because I was completely changing as a person before COVID. Like 1 year before, or maybe less than a year, like December 2018, my
Yeah.
dog passed away,
Well, I'm
and
sorry to
I
hear that.
lived. It happens, it's life, right? But I lived for that dog because I never wanted kids. I just always wanted my dog. And not that I didn't have dogs before, but he was everything to me. And so I always invested in him and I was just always having fun. And then after he passed away, I just felt like, well, what is like, who's my, I never felt alone with him. Like when I moved to LA, we moved just me and my dog. And people were like, oh my God, you moved by yourself. And I was like, nah, I moved with like my best friend. I was like so good, you know?
Yeah.
So I felt alone. And luckily my best friends lived next door and above. So I was always with people. But
Okay.
right before COVID, my best friends moved back to Israel, and my other girlfriend above, she was very COVID conscious, so she didn't hang out, you know? So I
Yeah.
was really, really alone. And it really was one of the best growth opportunities for me because it really made me dig deep and kind of figure out like a lot of things I was doing that wasn't serving who I was anymore as a person.
Yeah.
And I had surrounded myself with a lot of people that didn't really make sense with how I felt my natural way of life was turning out to be now. You know, like I wasn't into the partying anymore as much. I wasn't okay with the level of disrespect. Like I realized I needed emotionally much more from my friendships than I ever did before. Like before I was always like go lucky, have fun, never take anything serious person, and suddenly things were a lot more serious for me in life. Not like I'm like a very serious person, but I do care how someone engages with me. I do care how someone comes like and treats me as a person, how they come into my home, how they take me out, how I go out, like how I engage with them. If they're there for you genuinely, like those things didn't matter before when you're just always having a good time, right?
Yeah.
So I was very single and I was very good. It was a lot of self discovery and a lot of that I don't think I fully knew the new version of me until
Yeah.
COVID. And I don't think I knew what I wanted in someone until COVID, which was perfect because I was
Yeah.
turning 35.
But now how do you like how was your dating? Were you already on dating apps before COVID?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I was going on minimum 3, 4 dates a week, minimum before COVID. And
Okay.
because all I cared about was having a good time. Right after when things opened up, I would say I probably like the first year and still like maybe now I go on 1 date a week, maybe sometimes I go like a month without any dates because I the criteria has changed.
Of
Like
course.
I think last year I went on like 4 dates the whole year. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So because once you start looking for those serious things, there's not that many people that fit into that
Yeah.
box. What about you?
Yeah, so I was single too. It also COVID also helped me like just to be with myself, be like I don't know, understand kind of what I wanted, what I was doing. Self-discovery was amazing like for me. Like yeah, I mean it COVID sucked in a way because you did get so like
Lonely.
yeah, so lonely and the distance with friends and with everyone not being able to travel. But it also helped me just to be comfortable with myself and just be like, I'm fine. And I think that's where I was also like, I that's when I really knew that I just didn't want to have kids. I'm happy being my because I think I would have just gone crazy if I would have had kids
Yeah.
during the lockdown, you know? So
It's a
I was
lot.
just
It's a lot of
yeah.
work.
So yeah, and then afterwards is when I like during COVID, that's when I guess by the end of COVID, that's when I downloaded the app. And
For
that's
the
where I'm
first
like,
time?
for the first time, I never had a dating app or anything. I really have not been like that long on this dating app. And again, I only have one. And and I was
You said
like,
it was
it's hard.
Hinge, right? You're on
Hinge,
Hinge?
yeah,
Uh-huh,
yeah.
okay.
So I was like, I can't go out. I can't go to bars. And if you go, it's kind of like you still have the masks and stuff like that. So sometimes they look really pretty and then they took off their mask and you're like, oh, I don't like that smile.
It's like
uh,
guys with hats. That's how guys with hats are. They, welcome
guys
to
with
our
what?
world. all girls have this saying that like there's sometimes a guy looks so good with a hat on and then he takes it off and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? That guy is not as hot. Like there was something about him in that cap before when he takes it off. And I like the bald guy, but sometimes it just doesn't work for someone. Like it's just the hat. So that mask is the hat thing. But
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
So so I like something that I look at girls are eyes. I mean, I also like look at smiles, but it was so difficult because I would be like walking, I'm like, oh, that girl has beautiful eyes. And then for some reason, like I was just like, what's underneath her mask? Like, what if her teeth are all crooked, or I don't know, and I don't know. But and it happens sometimes. You're like, oh, she looks better with a mask on. But yeah, so I was just like, you can't really go out so much. A lot of people were like, they didn't want to talk to anyone because of COVID. So I was like, let me download the app because if somebody has it and is willing to go on a date right now, well, that's cool. I mean, I was vaccinated. I was always taking care. Where I worked, they would send us weekly COVID tests that we could do, and so I always knew that I was COVID free during that time. So then I was like willing to go out on dates, um, but yeah, it changed my dating aspect because of COVID. I would have never downloaded the app if it wasn't because of COVID.
And do you like having the app now or you're not sure?
I mean, I have it and I swipe right sometimes, and I've gone on some dates, but then I feel it's terrible because you're, I mean, not judging, but you're like, oh, she looks pretty, but then something she wrote, and I'm like, no, I didn't like it. And maybe if I met that person in real life, she wasn't, she would make me change. I don't know, like, or I would change the way how I think of her just because of that little thing she wrote. I don't know. And then
It
I'm
is
kind of
true.
picky. I like if it says I have kids, I'll just swipe left. I'm like, nope.
So you won't even
So
date someone who has kids.
I already went out. I dated someone that had kids, and I don't know. It was fine. I mean, also she cheated on me, so that
Oh,
didn't
geez.
end well. It wasn't because of the
It
kids,
wasn't the
right? Yeah,
kid. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't the kids, but
Sounds
still,
like the kid was the easiest part.
yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know how they feel when I say I don't want kids and they do have kids, you know?
I think people
So,
consider a lot of the time. I mean, I don't know, I don't have kids, but from my friends who do have kids, it doesn't bother them because they feel like, well, they're if their kid has like a dad already present or a mom already present, they're like, we've already got it. Like we're good. So you and I is what matters, and as long as you're nice to my kid, I don't need doesn't need like a father figure, you know. But it
yeah.
depends on the person.
And
But I
also
have a question.
maybe if they're older kids, like I don't want babies.
Yeah.
So like
Oh well,
if the
that's
kid
a lot of
is,
work.
yeah, I mean if the kid is probably like 12 or something like that, maybe I would consider. But that's the thing. I want to meet someone in person. So that's why the dating app is not like my thing because again, I'm just gonna judge over 4 or 5 pictures and some notes that they left. And I think it's so much better to meet someone. Like I mean, I don't know if I see your profile, if I would have ever even talked to you,
Nine.
and look how and look like and again, it's not just because of dating. I mean, we didn't hate on each other, but we had a really good conversation on the plane. And I don't know if it would have been like even, hey, let's be friends during the app. I don't know if it would have worked.
I hear what you're saying. You're saying like chemistry in regards of friends, people, and any kind of relationship is what you feel could miss out on the app. Like,
Yes.
so when you meet, so there's the thing, like they say if like 70% of the profile is okay, at least give that person a like a yes and start a conversation and see, you know? Because
Yeah.
that's the way I think you should swipe. Like there are a lot of people, unless it's like something you really don't like in that person. Like maybe they're like very big anti-vaxxers and you aren't, you know? So then there you go. Like I actually kind of appreciate. I prefer meeting someone in person because chemistry is so important to me. Like, there's so many times where someone is not at all what I think I would have wanted, but because there's so much chemistry, which you again, you're right, you can't get that on the app. But at the same time, I kind of like it. Like, I do both a lot. So I go out every weekend with my girlfriend, we meet guys, and I'm also on the apps. But there are a lot of times where I like the last three guys I've actually met in person. Once I got to know them, they had that on their profile, I would have saved us all a lot of time. So they both have their downfall. Like, I feel like sometimes when I meet someone in person and like you spent the whole night talking to them, maybe I wouldn't have wasted that night if I had just known those four things that the app would have provided me. And they were big things because another thing, like I was gonna ask, like bring up and ask you is like before COVID, like before, I mean, it's not just that COVID, I wasn't dating seriously before COVID. So once I started dating seriously, and one thing that happened during COVID for a lot of people, I think, is we started to realize foundations, different viewpoints. And I have no problem. My friends are all very different than me. I will cook meat for you, even though I don't eat meat. Like, I don't care. Like, I like differences,
That's so
but
nice of you.
yeah, because it's not my business to tell you how to live. But I do, and like I'm like Christian, and my best friend's a big atheist. Like, I don't mind that stuff. Like, it doesn't phase me. Like, when we talk about it, we just make sure to like respect or make jokes. I mean, we do make a lot of jokes about it, like her belief and my belief versus vice versa. But and that's okay. But one thing I did realize is there's certain foundations that I didn't even think about before the COVID time. Like, I really am not okay with certain things in life. And it's not about, I could easily be with an atheist. I don't care, like, as long as they're respectful. But there were
Of
certain things
course.
like how people acted after, like, towards one another. And it's really foundation of your mannerisms and kind of how you were brought up, or kind of how you see the world. And those things became non-negotiables for me versus before. So sometimes the apps kind of help you out through that. Like, people put on there, like, I don't, like, in general, like, I don't really care. Like, I take the flu vaccine. I hate being sick, so I don't really care. I'm not a pro-vax or anti-vax. I wasn't like I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I don't care. The world just is what it is, and I'm just gonna live it. But I do believe in trying your best to respect the people around you and doing as a whole what's best for the community. And so I really started doing things that not doing that I always was, but I really started not being okay with certain behaviors that I probably wouldn't have taken notice before.
Yeah.
Um, and so sometimes people write those behaviors on the apps and it makes it easier. So you're like, okay, I like this person will be like, I don't care about like you're all like conspiracy theorists or blah 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 or pro this or pro anti that. I'm like, well, glad I know. I don't need to keep talking to you. So
Yeah, yeah, of course.
and
Yeah,
people are very big on that stuff. Like I mean, I can tell you about it. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off because I did cut you off, but I just want to tell you a quick story. Like, one night we were out and we were talking to these two guys, it was me and my girlfriend. And they were good looking. We were having a good time. They were kind of selfish in general. Like, they didn't really ask us much about ourselves, but they talked a lot and whatever. And then the guy asked us out of nowhere, "Are you guys vaccinated?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, so you're one of those idiots that don't know better. You can't think for yourself." And then my girlfriend said, "Why are you not?" And I said, "No, he injects himself with bleach." I thought I was so funny. He was, I don't really care if you're vaccinated or not. It's not my business. Like, why are you even asking me? And he got so mad about the bleach vax like comments. And I'm like, but it was totally okay for you to call us idiots and sheep. Not
of
for me to
course,
say,
yeah. Like if he's being an asshole, why can't you be one and
yeah.
answer back with a yeah, with a snarky comment?
And I thought I was so funny. He was so pissed. But I mean, like, he's the type that wouldn't put it on his profile, and I would have never swiped right or left because he cares like so much, and he's so arrogant that it's like on his profile how stupid you are. I'm sure it is. I mean, I don't know his profile, but I'm sure he's the type.
Yeah, I've seen a whole bunch of that. Um like they leave comments and it's if you voted for Trump, if you did this, if you did not vaccinate, don't even click or don't like me. Like that's a deal breaker. And I like that they put those things because I mean,
It makes your life
I'm
simple, just like the kid thing.
yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just saying, like, sometimes it's easier on the app, and sometimes, you know. But I agree with
Yeah,
you. I prefer meeting them in person. I also prefer meeting some. I mean, like everyone wants that romantic story. I mean, the last time I was even attracted to someone was at the gym 3 years ago, and I still think about how good that felt. Like just walking in the gym and seeing that person. I barely even spoke to him, but just being like butterflies, excited. It's a great feeling.
yeah, yeah. I really like that feeling.
So
Mm.
a question for you is like, I mean, talking about all the foundations and what's changed for us in dating, what was, like putting all of this into time now being an adult, and you're dating seriously and you're looking to be with someone long term. What are, like we talked about the first dates, what are some things that you kind of, if you do like someone, are hoping would be part of your dates moving forward? Like, what would you expect from that person? What kind of dates do you want to go? I mean, your first date ideas were great. So, what is, what is a second date idea for you?
Um, Second date idea. Well, it also kind of depends on what was the first one. If I did the first one, like if I was the one that, hey, let's go here, I would really like that person to also take initiative and be like, hey, now I want to take you here, you know?
You want them to
So
plan the second date.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
And third one, or I would even like to cook for someone. I mean, I like cooking. I don't do it that often,
But
but
you're
that's
okay
something that
with
I
them
would do.
coming over on your second date?
Well, I don't know, second, maybe third.
So that bitch could still be a serial killer on the second date. You don't know.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, it could, but yeah, I mean, or yeah, something like that. But I would like that person to also take initiative in one of the dates.
Two things. So I the opposite. I like the first 3 dates to be planned by the guy. I'm really like I love that courting. Now like and again, like I didn't care for it pre-COVID or pre-serious dating. I was like, hey, like before then I was like, let's go do this, let's go do that. But I just really love a guy who takes initiative. I'm really attracted to that. So I love a guy who plans the first 3 dates. Like recently I went out with someone and then he picked the first restaurant and then the second place he suggested we go to like to Orange County for the day and kind of like go there's like a mall area there and there's like a Balboa Island. It's like a little island
Hmm.
you can walk around too. He's like, we went there, like, let's go grab coffee and lunch. And we walked around. And then, like that kind of stuff I thought was really nice. And then the third date he planned as well. I like the first 3 days. I really love that courting old school initiative. Like,
Yeah,
but it makes sense. Like, I understand your aspect. I think like the fourth date is really nice for a girl to invite. I mean, it also depends. Like, like to invite the guy over or someone invite someone over and cook or order food. Or I think like the first 3 days, I really like to be social and kind of get to know the person somewhere outside of the home because it also takes a lot of physical pressure off. And
yeah,
I also doesn't bring someone into your home where you're like a little bit unguarded or going to someone else's home. But I really like the first three to be something very social. I think the like third date should really be something revolved around your personalities. Like if it's like something that an activity that you both like, I don't mind even the third date being like a hike and then brunch after or something. Like, if that's what things you do. Or like maybe he likes like tennis and he takes you to go play tennis. Like I don't mind that on the third date, or you like, farmers market, something that's really personal. But I
yeah.
like the fourth or fifth date to be something like at home and more engaging and not outside as much and more just the two of you really getting to know one another.
Okay, so now you say at home. What about sex? Like, do you
That come
feel
in?
like, huh?
When does that come in?
Yeah, yeah. Like if that person invited you on the fourth date over, he's like, "Hey, come to my place. I'm gonna cook you dinner."
See, I hate the pressure of that, all of that. I hate the pressure of physical, like, if it's natural and it happens, great. I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
feel
know,
like
but
they're inviting me over.
no, 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 I get it. But do you have it like in the back of your head, like, oh, I
I,
mean, we're gonna be there by ourselves.
I mean,
Um,
I would definitely from the third date, I'll be prepared for that. But I would have what's necessary to be prepared. Um, but I don't know if I It has to be natural. Like there's some people that it happens even on the second date or whatever. Or the first like I haven't had the first date, but I could see what it happens. It's not a big to me, it doesn't matter. It's always individual choice what feels comfortable for you. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't want to feel or have that in my mind that they're coming over for dinner. I'm going to their place for dinner with that expectation. And I've had dates where I actually had a date once where the guy was like, this is our fifth date. And he was actually at my house. I was cooking dinner is and he had gone divorced. So I guess I was like one of the first girls he dated after. And he's like, usually on the fifth date, that's usually when people sleep together, right? And I was like, just because he had said that and that pressure was on there, not only did I not definitely like take that off the table, I made me not even really want to hang out with him after because I was like, did he only hang out with me to fifth date with that intention? Like, is that why he came over? Like, it just has to be something that naturally happens. Like, I don't like the pressure of a conversation about it, or like we're old enough to know what feels right for ourselves and in that
yeah,
situation. What about
yeah.
you?
Um,
Do you think there's
I,
like a three-fifth date rule or anything like that?
no, I don't think there is one. I mean, I don't date just to have sex, so that's not like my main goal. Um, but yeah, I feel like what you're saying, like it has to just like kind of happen. But I'm gonna be totally honest, it's gonna be hard for me to do the first move. I don't wanna, for me just to like go and try to kiss someone. Um, no, I just don't do it. I feel like I'm disrespecting that person. Like I mean, unless I see like we've been like staring at each other and we're really close, then yeah, maybe I will do the move. But yeah, I would never expect third, fifth date sex. Like that's
Do you
I hope it happens, but
do you feel like if a girl invites you over, that that's what she's inviting you over to? Like, let's say it's our third date and I'm like, or fourth date, and I'm like, hey Ben, like come over, I'm gonna order pizza and watch a movie. Do you think I'm inviting you over for sex?
no, no, I don't. Um, Again, if it happens, cool, but I do not feel like I've been with some friends or like they're kind of like friends. We kind of like know each other that we both kind of like have like a little crush for each other, but we just been watching a movie and nothing happened. Like
On a
so,
date though, like let's say it's our fourth date. If I invite you over, the first time I invite you over, do you don't think I'm inviting you over with that intention?
I don't think you are, but it's always gonna be in the back of my head. Like I'm like,
Well, you're
well,
a guy. It's in the back of your head
yeah,
regardless. It's in the back of
yeah,
your
but
head at a busy club. It's in the back of your head watching a farmer's market or at brunch.
wow.
Let's be honest. It's always in the back of your head. Okay, but what if it's been like 2 weeks and the girl still hasn't, and you've hung out a ton in that 2 weeks?
I would probably say like, "Hey, is something ever gonna happen?"
You would say it? I hate when a guy says it. Either go for it or or don't.
Well, but go okay. I mean, if it's like, "Hey, all the dates have nothing has happened, and then we're still going out, and it's just like, oh, let's go to farmers market, let's go here, let's go out, and it doesn't go back to someone's house." I mean, I don't know. Like, what are you expecting? Just to be like, "Hey, do you want to come over to my place to have sex?"
No, no, but I'm saying like for instance, let's say you've gone out, you've been hanging out for like 2, 3 weeks, and you've seen that person 3 or 4 times a week. There's clearly chemistry there. You clearly enjoy each other. You spend a lot of time that you're really making the effort. You're talking all the time. You get to the point where you're almost messaging every day, but you still haven't had sex. And you're at this person's house for like the third time. I mean, do you lean in and try at least? Like,
Yeah, I mean, at that point, maybe I would, but I would not lean in and just try it in the third, fourth date. No.
okay, got it,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
that
it's
makes sense.
yeah, if it's been a while, then I would lean in and see like what happens. And yeah. But again, I don't I'm not just gonna lean in. I need to wait for like that. I
Proper
don't know.
chemistry.
Yeah,
But or you would bring it up. You're saying you would bring it up in a conversation.
yeah. Maybe like if we're like it's our 10th date and we're walking through a farmer's market or at a brewery or something, I'd be like, hey, so what's up? Like, do you want to do something afterwards? Do you want to come over? But like more in a when is this gonna happen way.
Fair enough. That's fair. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really fair. I think
Yeah,
that's like,
because maybe she's also like kind of shy or she doesn't want to do the first move. And so she's just waiting for me to do it. Like, what if we're both waiting for somebody to do the move and it's never one or the other.
I think it's fair to bring it up if like you've made out a little bit before, like that kind of stuff. I don't like it right off the bat. Like that fifth date guy that was like we'd only hung out for a week and we ended up hanging out a bunch during that time, but it wasn't there. Like the chemistry wasn't there, and like the way it came off was really aggressive. It was like, hey, this is our fifth date, so we're going to, right? I was like, what? Like I wasn't like we're not basing things on like movies I watched when I was 16 years old, thinking on the third or fifth date, this is what happens, you
Yeah.
know? Like, it has to be natural. I've had another guy that we hung out with for weeks, and then he brought up through text, he's like, do you only like me as a friend? And I was like, what? Why? Like, we've made out. And he's like, well, it never goes past further. So that was a fair conversation. Like,
Yeah.
it was I didn't prefer it over text because then it just made seeing him the next time a little bit off. Like you're like, oh, now we've had the conversation. I wish he had just said it in person. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
think
yeah. Yeah. I mean I don't like doing a lot of things. Well, like I prefer talking in person than texting.
it just seems like more. The problem is sometimes you bring up like even if you're fighting with someone over text and you're like air it all out through over text, you're always nervous to see them the first time after the conversation. So it's
Yeah.
just easier to have that conversation with someone. Like I actually have a girlfriend of mine, and I used to never share how I felt about things. Like if something bothered me, like let's say I don't like someone doing something in my house and they keep doing it. I just will stop inviting them over instead of saying like, hey, do you mind not doing that? Like I was really bad at communication. And one
Yeah.
thing I noticed, and this is just like a friend thing, but it's really nice. Like when we do stuff, we'll be like, okay, I don't like, do you mind not doing that? She's always like that. And it actually made us build a really natural, healthy friendship. Like I feel like for instance, I make a lot of sarcastic jokes and I joke about things she doesn't like. Like I joke about like fake eyelashes and or like her doing her lips or her Botox, and she doesn't like that. And I didn't know because to me they're not serious things. And she just said, "Hey, in general, do you mind not making those part of your jokes? I don't mind if you joke about A, B, C, D, but don't bring those things up." I was like, "Cool, no problem." Never again did I do it. You know?
Yeah.
Like it just makes the friendship and things so easy. It was so much easier that she always does it in person, and it's always made our friendship so seamless because we don't really ever disrespect each other, do things the other person like because we're well aware of what those things are. But
Yeah.
at the
Like
same time,
you.
it's in person.
Yeah. Like you text. I mean, we cannot see each other in person often, right? But I hate when you answer KK. I'm like,
Oh, you
why
do?
can't? Well, I mean, I just feel I know you're not saying it in a mean way, but if somebody just answered K, I would be like, the
Do
fuck?
I do
Like,
that to you? I
yeah,
do say KK a lot. I
yeah,
don't even notice I've done that to you. But
yeah,
that's
you've done it.
funny.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, why can't you answer okay? Or, like, is it
But
that difficult? You did two letters. You did
but
K twice. Why can't you do okay?
but you
I don't
know what's
know.
really
And
funny?
so,
I can't think
and,
of a
and,
single time I've done that to you, but I know that's what I say. So I know I've done it.
and it's kind of like, I don't know, like,
But
but if you say it in person, you're like, yeah, okay, okay, or KK, but I don't think you ever would say KK in person. But I know you're not being mean. But if we didn't know each other, and I get that from someone that I'm dating, and they're like KK, I mean,
I
like,
do that, I'm sure, when I'm talking to people. I'm sure I do that to people. But I actually think okay sounds very professional and rude.
wait, okay, OKAY or okay,
Like the letter O and K to me sounds like how I would like someone disciplining their child would speak. So I
uh,
actually, it's funny that you think that. Like I think KK is like being like, hey, yeah, for sure, KK, got it, and saying okay, it's like stern. So that's
I don't
really
know.
funny you say that. I feel like that's really stern. Like if you said something and I said okay, I'm like okay, Ben, like.
And that's why I don't like text, because you could say, "Hey, what's up?" and it could, maybe you take it like, "What's up?" like, you cannot feel the intonation of how the person is saying it,
It's
and
actually
that's a,
perfect that you're saying all of this because our next podcast is the do's and don'ts when you're first trying to communicate with someone.
yeah,
So
that's
so
that's gonna be a good that's gonna be a
yeah,
good one.
yeah. So this is actually the perfect way. Like we should round this up because we should end today because honestly, this is going into tomorrow next week's podcast. Like, well, now I know never to say KK to you. I'm gonna say okay, Ben. But,
No, like at this
but
point, I don't care. I know you're not being mean, but if we were,
okay.
or you're not being like, yeah, but if we were like dating or something, that'll be like something like, what? Like, I don't know. I'm also
That's so
old,
funny because I
so
say things. I say that to. I don't remember. I'm 100% positive in 90% of my messages to guys. I say KK. So,
I'll take
but
screenshots and send them to you.
okay, well, let's end it here. And then
Okay.
it's actually the perfect ending because so the next week we're going to talk about the don'ts when trying to first communicate with someone. We all know
Yes.
now not to write KK to Ben. Definitely
Yes.
don't do
Please don't do
KKK. We all, I mean, at least socially, everyone knows not to do KKK.
that. Of course.
But we know not even to do the two Ks. But we'll talk about that next week. And before signing off, I do want to remind everyone to follow us, subscribe to us. Everything is under the perfect underscore X. That's just the letter X. If you want to email us, it's the perfect X at hotmail.com. One word. Again, just the letter X. Especially if you were someone who dated someone for 10 plus years or whatever, and then got married and got divorced right after, let us know. We are very curious.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
that's a good one.
All right, Ben. Okay,
Okay,
let's
Sherry. KK. See you next week.
see you next week. Bye.
Bye.